What's going on, everybody? Chase on Two Wheels here in front of Wow Motorcycles, and in front of me I have a 2022 Honda Shadow Aero 750. This cruiser kind of sits in the middle of the Rebel 500 and the Rebel 1100, but with a totally different look. Very cool looking bike. I am excited to get a ride on this thing, and it's a first ride, so we got to see what it looks like and see what it sounds like. You got to stick around to the end of the video to find out if I think this thing is a purchase or a pass. Let's get into it. Okay. By the way, if you don't like the way your motorcycle sounds, just listen to music on your Cardo when you use a 10% discount code Cardo in the description down below. You're welcome, and goodbye. Alrighty guys, that's what it looks like, that's what it sounds like now. This video is not sponsored, but it is supported by our website, wbrgarage.com, where we do motorcycle giveaways. If you guys want to win one of our motorcycles, I'll have a link in the description for you. You can enter multiple different ways. I'll let you guys check it out on the website. It's got all the info there. If you are already a member, I love you a long time. But it's first ride, let's get on this thing. Alrighty guys, might have the record for the largest seat of a motorcycle I've ever sat on. Alrighty guys, so I'm 5'10", got 32-inch inseam, and I am on the ground. Look how bent my legs are. I'm almost in the position I would expect to be in a chair. That's hilarious. So we've got these cool bent back handlebars. I'm really excited to see what it is like riding with the handlebars like this. I haven't ridden a lot of bikes like that. So in front of us, you guys don't see a key. That's because it's down here. We'll pop the key there, and we will get her turned on. As you can see, we don't have any ride modes. We don't really have a lot of buttons at all, so not a lot to talk about. So we can get going. Oh, it's so weird with these handlebars. Holy crap! Also, real quick before we get going, guys, if you guys want to get notified of all the stuff going on in the C2W universe, you can join the On2 crew email list. Links in the description. We just let you guys know what's going on around the channel because YouTube definitely does a terrible job of letting you guys know when new stuff is posted. So if you guys are a fan and want to check out all the goods, check out the newsletter. I'll be in your inbox every single week, but only once. All right, here we go, boys. That's our opportunity. Let's go on the Shadow. Alrighty, guys, out here on the Honda Shadow. You know, guys, I'm going to be honest, I didn't even know this bike existed. And it's kind of weird because I always looked at Honda and their cruisers as, you know, they have the Rebel line. They've got the 300, the 500, and the 1100 Rebel. So this thing kind of sits in between the Rebel 500 and the 1100, but obviously it is an entirely different platform. So I think this is going to be a pretty interesting first ride. Can't wait to check this thing out. All right, guys, it's the first ride. You guys know how we start this off. Let's talk about body position right now. So obviously, as you guys can tell, we got forward controls here. We have this massive seat that my whole butt is fitting in. and it kind of cups up in the back, so it's kind of holding me in place really well. It's honestly a super comfortable position. Upright is my upper half is very upright, and then the bars are kind of these little beach bars that come back. I don't know how I feel about the beach bars just because of the harsh angle that they are at. But right now, lower half, really comfortable. And even if I was a little taller, I think I have some room for my legs, even if I needed more space. So it is a very low bike to the ground, but very comfortable once you get out here and get riding. Alrighty guys, we don't have any modes, so we got no modes to change into here, but let's talk about the engine here. We have a 749cc V-twin in the Shadow here, good for about 45 horsepower and 44 foot-pounds of torque, so pretty equal on the horsepower and torque numbers. And it's always interesting to ride bikes like that. I feel like the majority of the time I'm riding bikes that are like, they have way more horsepower than they have torque, so it's always fun to ride a more torque-focused bike, or what I would consider a torque-focused bike. The problem with this bike is with those power numbers that are a little low, the weight of this bike is 560 pounds. So that's a lot of weight to be pushed around by relatively not a ton of horsepower. So and torque, you're not going to be hauling butt on this bike. But I think that's kind of the point. I don't think a lot of people are buying cruisers to haul butt. Like there are bikes that do a very good job of that, and the cruiser market is not typically known for that. But for a more entry-level cruiser, I think this might be a pretty solid option. So let's talk about city performance here. 560 pounds, that is a lot of weight, and the bike I wouldn't say is slow to move around, but I mean it's kind of low weighted, so you get that quick movement, and then the kind of bike responds afterwards. So you know, you'll do like this and then the bike moves. So I don't really know what to call that, you know, lethargic or whatever, but calculated maybe. Like boom, and then the bike gets going over. So the weight doesn't seem that bad once you're going because of where it is, but it does take a little time for the bike to get moving in that direction that you're wanting. So you know, that's controlling here on the on city streets and whatnot. But as far as power delivery goes, I've had no issues with the power delivery. I think this is a pretty solid platform for city riding so far. You know, I haven't gotten into a situation where I'm like, you know, get up and go. I need this thing going faster. It's honestly been pretty nice chilling around on city streets. And I think that's the vibe you're kind of going for on a cruiser, is kind of enjoying yourself, riding around, just enjoying being on two wheels. You know, every bike doesn't have to be rip your face off fast. And that's the kind of vibe I'm getting here on the Shadow Aero. One of the nice things about this thing is with all these bumps, the suspension is really soft, so it just soaks the bumps up. I really do feel like I got that kind of riding a couch mentality. And I would much rather prefer that on some of these roads, dude, that got all types of stuff in them, bumps and whatnot. Definitely nice to have that softer suspension in an environment like this. Sweet. This thing's got a good sound for a stock exhaust too. One thing on this bike, similar to other cruisers that I ride, I think it's just because I don't spend a ton of time on them, but when I get this thing leaned over, there is that thing in my head of like, wait for the scrape, wait for the scrape. I haven't scraped any pegs on this yet, but it's just in the back of my head every time I take a turn on it. You know, I feel like the power on this bike really matches the feel of the bike. You know, like I was saying a second ago, this bike has not got rip your face off power, but it does have that torquey little pull. It's not like a little tractor or something like that. On this model, by the way, we do not have ABS. I could make an entire video about how I feel about Honda not putting ABS on all their bikes right now. And granted, this is a 2022 model, but Honda's one of the few companies still allowing you to buy bikes without ABS. And you are able to squeal the rear tire on this thing, which I do find hilarious. But I don't know, man, as a bike that I could totally see as being a more beginner-friendly bike, I would really prefer to see ABS on all the models. So Honda, I don't know what's going on with that, but I would love to see you just ABS across the board. It's just what you offer on bikes, just like a lot of other manufacturers. I would love to see that. This is one of the super nice things about having a bike that's so low to the ground. It's got the low seat height, so look how much leg availability I have to, you know, get on the ground and control the bike. This gives me a lot of confidence when I'm not moving, especially on a bike that weighs 560. You don't want, you don't want to be in a position where you're tall up and you can barely touch the ground. A lot of confidence when you're in stop and go traffic like this. I will say the top of my butt is getting tired. I'm trying to like figure out what position I need to be in on the seat, because if I sit all the way in the seat, the top of my butt gets tired, so a lot of weight is going there for some reason. I'm trying to wiggle it around, because I've probably been on the bike for about an hour and a half today. We already did our camera car run, which is interesting because it's such a big seat. You'd think it'd be just like crazy comfy. Alrighty guys, we got a job to do on the 2022 Honda Shadow Aero. We got to see how fast this thing will go from 40 miles an hour to 80 miles an hour, thanks to our buddies at Law Tigers. They are our motorcycle lawyer buddies. If you need anything or something happens to you on the road, they need to be one of the first people you call, you know, to help you out in a situation like that. So shout out to Law Tigers for sponsoring the show. And let's see how fast she'll go, boys. This one, there's a lot of traffic. We're going to have to be careful. All right. On your mark. Get set. Go. She's a little slow for the pickup. Oh, and we got a car in that lane. This is going to... Oh, wait, no, they're going... Okay. We're fine. We're fine. That's 80. Goodness gracious, that took a while. But we got there. God, it's almighty. All right, Chris, what was that time? Not going to be high up on our leaderboard. All right, guys, we are on the highway, which is where the cruisers should love. And honestly, this is pretty freaking chill. We are in the top gear. I believe there's 5 gears on this bike. I could be wrong. It could have 6. Bike's feeling really good right now. I'm getting a little vibration in my handlebars and tiniest bit of vibration in my pegs. Nothing bad, though. Power-wise, I've still got power to get through traffic with absolutely no problem. Seat's doing a good job. Bike's tracking really well. Woo, good God. I do wish I had cruise control. I will say that. And if you are buying this motorcycle and you want to do a lot of long distance stuff, I would recommend you look into getting a windscreen, because with my upper half being slightly, like it's almost straight up or back a little bit, the wind is just pushing me back, and the gas tank is not really in a good position for me to hold on with my legs. So my legs are just kind of drifting out. So I can't really use them to help me lean forward. So I am kind of getting pushed back by the wind. So stuff to note, a windscreen would easily solve that problem, though, with no problem at all. Pretty happy with the level of power I have on the highway. I was kind of worried, you know, a 749cc bike pulling a 560-pound weight, it would die off. Now, you're not going quick on the highway, but this thing's having no problem getting up to highway speeds, staying up with traffic and going around it, so I got no problem with that. The weight is also helpful to keep the bike tracking well. The wind's not blowing me around or anything like that. Overall, not a bad showing, guys. So I'm gonna finish up the highway and listen to some music on my Cardo. If you guys need a Bluetooth helmet communicator, Cardo are the ones to go with. I love mine, couldn't ride without it. So I'm gonna chill with some music, thanks to Cardo, and I'll be right back. Alright guys, that's it for the highway. Also, forgot to mention, you guys can get 10% off with the Cardo if you use the code CTUPCardo over on the website. I'll have a link in the description for you if you guys want to grab one. It massively helps support the channel. Overall, medium-sized cruiser on the highway did not do bad. I could totally do a little trip on this thing. See, this is where I'm like, where's it going to scrape? Where's it going to scrape? And that's just in the back of my head. I'm thinking about that the whole time. The bike suspension is really soft and it's not adjustable, so you are not gonna get on this bike and start throwing it over and really feel locked in on the road. When we were doing the camera car run, when I came to that little bouncy section, dude, this bike just felt like it was bouncing all over the place. But yeah, I don't think people are gonna be buying this bike thinking that it's gonna be some, you know, track weapon or anything, but a really soft suspension does have its pros and cons. So just, you know, be safe out there. If you're taking turns a little hard on this thing, just be wary. So overall, for, you know, relatively lower power numbers and a heavy weight, highway has been solid. The power is very, you know, tractor-like. It's going to pull you along. No problem, honestly, with the power. Suspension's a little soft. As far as the gearing, I've had no problem with the gearing. They last a lot longer than I think a lot of people are going to expect. So what we would call that is a taller gear. You can stay in that gear for longer before you're going to find yourself needing to shift, which is kind of surprising. Didn't really expect that out of a V-twin. I expected it to just be shifting all the time. But yeah, guys, the transmission, though, feels really good when I am shifting through the gears. I get a good satisfying feel when I click in there, and I absolutely love that. I hate transmissions where you can't feel the gear you're in. I do wish I had a gear indicator, though. I find myself like, what gear am I in? Where do I need to go? And then, you know, can't see anything. So I would like to see that. And for all I know, if they have newer Shadows, they might have that figured out. I'm kind of digging the vibe here, if I'm gonna be honest. Like, I like the chill vibe you get out of this bike. I feel totally content just kind of cruising around. You know, typically I have the problem of where I'm like, if I'm on my bike, especially like my MT10 or something like that, I want to be on it and I want to be riding fast. But I think it's just because of the kind of bike it is. I get on a bike like this and I'm like, dude, I'm kind of cool just riding around chilling. So this is the model with no ABS. That means our front brake, our rear brake is a drum brake. So let's see if we can stop relatively quickly. Not terrible. I would like to see more, but I don't love that. I don't love that I can squeal that rear tire. And maybe if I could turn it on or off or something like that, but it just being off all the time, not the fan. Can't tell what that car's doing, so we're gonna go ahead and go. One other thing I will mention is the shifting. I love it feeling I get when it gets into gear, but one of the things that I don't like is when it's in first, if I try to shift down, I just get like a dead shift. It just kind of goes down and nothing happens. I would rather there be a floor to the first gear, so when you go down, you can't press it much. So I'm not a fan of that. Some bikes do that kind of stuff. You know, it's not my preferred. All right, so let's talk about the controls up here. Not a ton to talk about. We have obviously the gas tank with the speedo inside the gas tank, so that's cool if that's your vibe. We got a couple lights here and an odometer, and then here on the controls, even for a 2022, look a little old. I'm surprised. It almost looks like, you know, Honda just carried these controls over from an older model. So that's pretty interesting. They've clicked well. They have actually a really good feel when you click them, but it's relatively simple. We got a horn, blinkers, and brights over here, and then we got our kill switch and our starter, and that's it. Not a lot else going on, but it's more of a simple motorcycle that kind of removes all of the crazy electronics. Then if you guys notice, I'm sure you did up here, we have a gas light, a turn blinker indicator, and a bright indicator. So if you're one of those people that's not big on all of the rider aids on motorcycles and you're looking for something to cruise on, this thing is going to tick those boxes for sure. Now, as far as the levers, it's kind of hard to show you guys, but they do not feel. That one's adjustable. My clutch is adjustable. My brake lever does not seem adjustable. Not really a surprise there. I don't know if I mentioned this, but this bike is MSRPing, or at least it cost, what is it, $7,800? Relatively cost-effective motorcycle. So you're not getting a ton of extra stuff, like, you know, some of the creature comfort stuff, but you're also not paying for it. So we love a cost-effective bike that gives people options down there. Sorry guys, I gotta open this visor up so your man can breathe. I know the audio's not ideal when I do that, but if you guys are riding in Georgia right now, you are very clear at how rough it is to ride right now. I'm also in absolutely full gear, as always, with an airbag vest. So your boy, even on a slightly cooler 87-degree day, a little warm. Little warm. Honestly, dude, stock exhaust, that sounds great. I would be totally content if my bike sounded like that. The bike does lurch a lot when it gets going. It throws you back, which is always fun. We love to feel like we're going fast. All right, guys, so up here, I'm going to pull off and do a little walk around with the bike and show you guys some stuff. I know y'all been looking at that camera car footage thanks to our sponsors. By the way, you guys supporting our sponsors for the show, you know, grabbing the helmets or the Bluetooth or using Law Tigers or anything like that, using the phone mounts from Quad Lock if you remember to install them on your motorcycle. You guys supporting those guys with our links massively helps this channel, and we would not be able to afford that camera car footage without y'all's support. So we really appreciate it. But we're going to do a little walk around, check this thing out, and do a little talking about it. Let's see how she handles the parking lot situation, boys. We got 560 pounds of Honda power. This is where I'm not a huge fan of the steering. I just feel like I don't have the normal control that I want to have. And maybe it's because it's new to me, and maybe I'm freaked out that there's a cop behind me and I passed a car on the outside. So we're gonna see if the cop pulls me over. All right, she made it, boys. I do have a hard time finding the kickstand. You guys can see it, the little wedge pops out right there. I think the bike is so low to the ground, my leg has a hard time getting up on that kickstand. If I didn't tell you guys, the key is here on the side, which I'm a sucker for the side key. I'm gonna be honest. There's no reason for that. There's no pro, no con. It just is. Alrighty. So, Honda Shadow Aero. There is another Honda Shadow. It looks a little differently here than this, but for here, we're getting the big fenders. The blue on this, I don't know if you guys can see how nice it is in the camera, but this is, oh, there you go. There's the sun. This is one of the best blues that I have seen on a Honda, period. Like, typically Suzuki does really nice paint on their blues. That is up there with Suzuki, so shout out to them. Shout out to Honda for making a beautiful blue. I also love the kind of cream color. Love the color combo. Massive rear seat for your passengers if you're going to be riding two up. So, and the engine is going to be totally capable of handling that. I also just realized, I remembered that this bike is a shaft drive. So if you notice, there's a little shaft there. There's no belt. There's no chain. That is what is causing the bike to lurch forward. That's that shaft kind of lurchy vibe. And also, as you guys can see down here, that is your belt brake or drum brake. That is your drum brake down there. I actually don't know if I've ever ridden a bike with a drum brake, so that's kind of a cool thing to experience. So the looks wise, this look I think is really popular with a lot of people. I'm not a big chrome fan, and I'm not a fan of this style of bike, but you guys know I love motorcycles. I love trying stuff out, which is why I wanted to try this bike today. And as you guys can see up front, there's no little slot, so no ABS up there. But there you go. If you guys are here for chrome and you're here for a cost-effective bike that actually looks fantastic, it looks way more expensive than the price of the actual bike, definitely want to check this thing out. But what I'm going to do real quick, since I forgot to install my quad lock on this bike, that's my fault. I'm going to use my phone, and we're going to film some stuff for our people over on our vertical platforms. We're Chaseontwowheels over on TikTok, and we are C2 Pics on Instagram. I'm going to film some stuff for them, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, my friends, that's it for the vertical content. If you guys want to go check that out, go check it out. Now, we got a steering stem lock test, and we got to find out, is this thing a purchaser pass, a.k.a. who's it good for? Let's get her going. Alrighty. So, you got handlebars all the way to the side. We're lined up with a tree. We're in slot 147. Let's go before all these cars start going. You know, that's in the 50%, boys. There is no doubt. Not a bad showing. I'm actually surprised by that. All right, guys, purchases are passed. Let's get to it on the Shadow Aero. All right, my friends, it's that time you've watched the whole video for. It's time to find out, is the 2022 Honda Shadow Aero a purchase or pass? So for me, I'm thinking the Shadow Aero is probably going to be a pass for me personally. One, I'm not a huge fan of chrome. Secondly, I really am not a huge fan of the handlebars bending back like this. It actually kind of hurts my wrist being in that position this whole time. That being said, I'm used to motorcycles where my hands are more straight, and I'm just not in the area of my riding career where this bike appeals to me. Also don't really like the looks personally, but that's personal preference. So the question then becomes, if it is a pass, who is it a purchase for? So first off, if you like the looks of this, because the looks on this bike are so much different than the Honda Rebel. Honda has they've done a good job with their Rebel line matching all the Rebels. So you can have a Rebel 300 and a Rebel 1100, and unless you know what you're talking about, it's kind of hard to tell what size Rebel you have. I think that's a good thing because you can buy into the Rebel line, and if you really like your Rebel 300, you can upgrade to a 5 or 1100 and keep basically the same bike, just get more power and a little more stuff with it. So I think that's cool. So the person for this bike is definitely the person that wants that more classic cruiser look, and typically I don't recommend bikes over the 650 class as a starter bike, and I'm not necessarily saying this would be a good starter bike, but I definitely think if you're brand new to riding and you know you want to ride a cruiser, this is definitely something that needs to be on your radar, especially if you really like the pared down look. You don't want a lot of rider aids, just, you know, for your personal preference, and you like this kind of classic styling. I think this is totally doable as a first bike, especially if you're a little more mature with your throttle. You know, the bike is not slow. It'll pick up and go, but I think it's manageable enough for somebody that has no experience. The only thing I would recommend if you are going to do that is maybe try to find an ABS model, because that way you're not going to be slamming on the rear brake and skidding the rear tire out if you got, you know, in like an emergency situation. Another person I could really see getting this bike and really enjoying it is maybe somebody that wants to get into a cruiser that they want to modify themselves and really customize, because with the lack of all of those rider aids, this bike is going to be relatively simple to break apart and really customize. When I was doing the research on this bike before I did this video, I noticed a ton of people buying these and then customizing them out. So maybe you have a motorcycle in your garage that you really like, but you've always wanted to do a build on like a cruiser or something like that. This would be really cool because it's cost effective, it's easy to grab, it's not going to take a lot of money as like your starting point. It's a Honda, so it's going to run for freaking ever, and it's relatively easy to work on because there's not a lot of technical electronics that you have to deal with. So I could definitely see somebody like that enjoying this and like really having fun with an easier build. But anyways, guys, that's all I've got to say on the 2022 Honda Shadow Aero. Big shout out to Wow Motorcycles for allowing us to ride this bike around. Wow was awesome to deal with. I actually bought my first motorcycle at Wow, so that's always cool. But they are a huge used bike dealer up here in North Georgia. We'll have a bike provided by link in the description if you guys want to check them out and see what's on the floor. You never know, this Shadow might still be there. But anyways, guys, if you made it to this point in the video, you're in the outro crew. So I really appreciate, one, you made it to the end of the video. It super helps us out when you guys watch the entire video. And what I would love for you to do is obviously like the video, but then leave a comment and put OC in your comment down below. And let me know, in the Honda line, do you prefer this look or do you prefer the Rebel look? Interested to see how many of you guys are here for kind of this older classic vibe on the looks on motorcycles. And guys, I'm Chaseontwowheels. I hope you guys go out there and ride safe. I appreciate you riding around with me. I'll see you on the next one. Later, guys.